The birds are chirping beautifully today, and welcome to Steve's Backyard Bonsai Part 2, trying to get my first forest planting up to par. Since we last met, I put a giant weight on this root because without it, this is still springing up off the rock. So this is temporary, but I think a few months of caring for this, watering and feeding, I'll be able to lift that weight off, and the springiness will be, if not gone, severely diminished. There's a cushion of moss between the rock and the roots. So I'm going to get started, and what I'm going to start with is pruning. These trees are way too high. I'm thinking they want to be like this, maybe this. These right here represent the tallest part of this tree. This tree would then be cut down shorter, and shorter still down the back. This planting is trying to adhere to forced perspective with a real honest-to-goodness front. My intention is to put the stairs back that I have in here, but place them better. Maybe even rebuild them completely. That's still going to be based on when I have time to work on it. I'm going to try and secure this rock a little bit better by putting some bonsai soil fines in there and shoving them in. Here too. Get the debris out of there. This is our oak trees. And I still have the problem of the steepness, although it's diminished now. So what I'm going to do is try and keep the roots exposed. So while this is not ideal, I want these roots to hide the fact that I did have a comment relating to the fact that I seem to indicate that a cliff was a poor idea or something, and that couldn't be further from my intention. What I'd really like to do is diminish the areas where the underside of it is worn. I like that the top of this rock was worn, but I would want the underside to either not be showing, and for it to not be showing at all, this angle has got to be quite steep. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. I don't think I can avoid it here. But getting back to my thought process, these roots at the top of the rock would then grow and be exposed more and look more like they are part of nature. This tree has to be straightened in this direction. Sorry. And this tree has to be straightened in the other direction. And I'm going to accomplish that with a large diameter piece of wire put next to this like a splint and secured close to what the new top is. Okay, that's a good segue into what has to be done now. Okay, so I'm going to start with what I believe the apogee, or the highest point of this forest, should be, and I think that's right here. So everything above that is coming off like that. This there's a branch here that interferes with that and could become the apex, or can compete with the apex. Yeah, so I'm going to snip that off as well. Just takes this down to the next branch, leaving a little bit for dieback and kind of an open canopy at this point. I don't yet have full use of my left thumb. I'm doing my best, but it sure would be nice to have the dexterity that 2 good hands gives you, especially doing work like this. What I want to do is take off the whole top section of this tree. It's got some really nice, healthy growth, much more than what is now my front and center tree, which is a little disconcerting, but I'll live with it. But that's a big cut. But here we go. A little bit for dieback, making sure the blades aren't going to cut something I don't want them to. And off it comes. So I'm getting my profile how I want it. There is a natural leader happening here, making the tree be straight up, but is that what I want? Yeah, I think for the good of the forest, this whole top section comes off. This is where the manual dexterity, the fact that I don't have it today, really comes into play, because I would like to do some pinching here. Instead, I'm going to have to resort to maybe some fine scissors. But I'm only working on height right now. So with that in mind, I want to move on to this tree, which should be just a little shorter than this one. Before I trim this tree up, this one, I need to decide if this tree suits my needs being taller than this, or if I have to prune it down because of these trees. I can take this branch down to here and this would still be a credible forest tree. And that's what I'm going to do. Another big cut, but one important for the vision. Okay, so from the front, I haven't changed much, but if I can, if I could shape that top, it would help me determine the height of this other tree, which, remember, will be cocked out that much. I have to shorten this, and you're looking at the back of the planting now, but there are some opportunities. For instance, that. And this. And this. This could come back to here. This can come back to here. This divides into 3 here. In this case, I want to take the middle one out, which is going to reduce the vigor quite a bit. This that's growing up. It's nice and thick and lush, but doesn't fit the vision. So I think I'm getting there. This is exceptionally long. Where does it come from? Okay. Now going back to the front. All right, so, the front of this tree is going to have to wait until I get to this tree. This is a problem tree for me. I've been trying to avoid these these branches here, but there's no avoiding them. I think this comes way back to here. This piece comes off. The top is almost dead, but I think I'm just going to take this part off, which is sapping energy away from this, which seems to have a little bit more vigor, but not enough. So I'm going to take that off. And we got some interference here. So I'm going to take the lower part of that branch off. And the whole end of this, I have another piece that kind of goes up into the middle there, and it branches off as well. So I'm going to go with that to get my separation. Got to deal with this interference lower down as well. It's going to have its own little area of sunlight, but I don't want it to shade out these right below it as much. So I'm going to take the end off of this. I know I'm in your way. I just opened this up, remembering that's coming out. And further in, there's also some interference here, or potential interference. And I want this thing to fill out, so I'm just going to shorten that. It's kind of weird, this one branch here. I'm going to take it off. It fills a spot, but there's something below it that I hope will grow. I think I'm going to take this guy off. So this piece now can come off entirely. Now this is looking more like its own tree. That branch there looks, if not dead, then almost dead. There's a dormant bud right at the intersection there. Maybe that'll take off. Some weak, dead foliage there. This whole thing dead. Oh, my fingers. Yeah, that comes off. That opens up now. And leave that for now, but clear out the debris. I got some sweeping out branch tips. They sweep back and forth, and I like that. This one was just too long. Okay, problem tree. Why is it a problem? It lacks the vigor of the tree next door. And apparently I'm not done with the tree next door yet because I'm still working on it. But every time I move, there's something comes to light that needs refining. Now this is opening up. This is one of the trees that it's pretty straight, but I think it needs remedial support, which I will give it after I finish pruning. I think I want to shorten this little double branch here to here so it starts to grow outward and over the stairway. Because that tree that I took out there, the one low branch that it had went right over the stairway, but the tree as a whole really looked terrible. And you know, I do intend to keep this as a lush planting, but every now and then you got to just rein it in. All right, there is, there is growth. Remember, I had an issue with justifying the height of this tree, and I kind of determined that I liked this height. Thinking there are big trees, even in the distance, bigger trees that are in the foreground. Trees with maybe branching higher up. Trees you want to thicken up and make look massive someday. Okay, keep in mind that this tree will be straightened out and shortened. I would be creating a little bit of a hole here. This is the back. Looking from the front, with this gone, I'm creating a bit of a hole. So I will cut that off. But how do I get in there? I think this way. All right. It's gone. Do I regret it? A little. But believing in the powers of regeneration and good branch selection, maybe it'll surprise me. All right, the rest of this forest I'm going to prune in time lapse. You're welcome. All right, stepping back and taking a look at what I've done and what I still need to do. This is kind of an anomaly to me right now. I'm not exactly sure what to do here. I think I'm going to leave it long for now. My other possibility is to take this right side off, right here. This tree right here is the last one to prune up, and I thought I would talk you through my thought process. Remembering this tree has to be straightened this way and pushed this way. So with that in mind, I'm going to go back to the front, and right away this branch right here is too long. What I took it back to may die back. There isn't really much vigorous growth there, but if it does sprout something, it's in a good spot. These low branches, I don't think they do me any good. They're kind of interesting. Maybe take one out. These are out of the profile where it's sitting at rest, but when it's corrected, they're not so bad. So in its corrected state, if I take this piece off, maybe this, and this little back section. There's a weak branch directly under the other one. There's a crossing branch off of one that's pretty radial. There's a branch right at the crotch going straight up. Take that out. Still too long here. I'm going to take the tip off of this. I'm going to take this crossing piece off. And I'm going to shorten this branch. Well, and take this piece off of here. Maybe that'll, well, let me take this hanging part off. This tree's going to be very visible in there, so yeah, I'm going to take this part off. This back piece off. And in terms of the overall height, tip off of there, tip off of there, tip off of there. So I think I've got this forest pruned up where it needs to be. Very unusual dense buds all throughout. I think the tree has a nice natural shape. Probably should be the one back there, and this one should be moved up, but I can't even think like that right now. I really want to see what this tree does on its own. All right, I'm done with the pruning. Now, I hope you can see this okay. This is a piece of 4 or 4.5 mil wire. I'm not exactly sure anymore. I'm just trying to kick it over to follow the curvature of this branch. I mean this trunk. And I'm going to try and correct the straightness of this this trunk by securing it to this. I think I'm going to do it with a tie wrap. All right, it's not going to be so easy to see against this background, but I hope you can. Let's see. Might have to get rid of a branch in order to do this. Okay, now it's straight in all dimensions. That's that one. Now I'm going to perform a similar operation all around, and I'll do that in fast motion. Okay, that's all I'm going to do today on this. My eastern red cedar forest. Tomorrow I will put moss on the surface, and I'll be done and just let it grow for the season. I will take this wire off. Well, it depends. I mean, if I still think it needs strengthening, I'll leave the wire on, even all winter. I don't think anything's going to bite in. Everything's pretty loose and pretty straight. This is a little bit of a straight alignment here. I don't know if there's anything I can do to correct that. at this point. So I'm not going to try. I'll have some low plantings here that will hopefully make it seem all right. I have some sedum I might put in here. I just have to watch out I don't let it get out of hand. And I will muck and moss this area, which will help strengthen these wires as well. Here, here, and here. And I've got a little bit of lift here, so I'm just gonna pile some muck on that. And that's it for today's edition of Steve's Backyard Bonsai. Thanks for keeping me company in my backyard.